What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today, we're going to be looking at how to find and how to trade the next big narratives in crypto using AI agents as an example. As a fun fact, guys, I was kind of early to the AI agents hype, up currently around 2 or 3x on some AI agent positions. I'm going to show you guys how I was able to figure out that AI agents were going to pump and which narrative I think is going to be the next big one to pump in crypto. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the crypto market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better investors and the better traders we're all going to become. With that being said, guys, I'll start here by kind of pointing out, I guess, taking a step back, you could say, and how it is that I look at the crypto market. It's very simple. Basically, I kind of try and assess where we are in the crypto market cycle, and then I ask myself, like, what are the catalysts that could pop up that could cause certain cryptos to rally within that cycle. So for context, I believe that we're entering now the final and most bullish phase of the cycle. And of course, for that reason, I'm kind of looking around for different catalysts of, like, what could be the thing that causes a rally. For example, in AI agents and GameFi, I'm kind of foreshadowing here what I'm going to be talking about. But I look at all these different catalysts and I say, okay, like what are the catalysts coming up? Which cryptos could rally as a result, and which cryptos could be the next one? Like, where could capital rotate after that? Like, where would be the most logical place for capital to go? So when it comes to AI agents specifically, I've been saying for a few weeks now to members of the Coin Bureau Club that I believe that we would see an AI agents rally. We've kind of seen early signs of that. It still hasn't like rallied like crazy just yet, but I do think that this is something that is going to accelerate over the summer, and that's simply because we have a lot of AI related catalysts happening over the summer. The first of which is one you may have heard about, which is Tesla debuting this the self-driving taxi service in June. Of course, that's going to involve some component of AI, and I'm sure that's going to be one thing that a lot of people will be focusing on. Another thing that a lot of people have forgotten about is OpenAI basically working on GPT-5. I think this is something I've mentioned in previous videos, but OpenAI should be releasing GPT-5, I believe, sometime over the summer. They have not specified an actual release date, but I assume that when they do announce a GPT-5 and reveal it, it's probably going to blow everyone's mind. Like, everyone's going to think it's crazy that this is the dawn of AGI, and I think it's going to result in a new kind of like speculative wave in AI. But of course, the thing is that the first speculative wave in AI was arguably more about like infrastructure, like hardware, right? And we can even see that in crypto, that a lot of deep in cryptos were popping off, right? Like early last year, Nvidia and all these tech companies that really focus on the hardware side. But everyone's wondering now, right? The big question is, like, what are the applications of AI going to be? And I think the answer, guys, is another thing that people haven't been paying attention to, and that's AI agents. What's really interesting is that this is something that Meta has been focusing on. For those of you who don't know, like Meta has this like Llama 3, or I think they might have released like Llama 4 or something. But point being is that Llama has been releasing these open source AI models, and everyone's wondering, like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that? Don't you want to keep it closed source and like try and monetize it or whatever? And no one seems to be paying attention to the fact that, like, the people at Meta, I think, understand that the software, like the hardware and even the software, isn't the kind of like the secret sauce. The secret sauce and like the real selling point is going to be like AI agents, which you can basically think as being as like personal assistants. And this is something I think that most people can understand, is like, hey, you have your personal virtual assistant. If you need something done, you ask them and they'll do it for you. That's actually useful. That's actually a use case. And as you guys will see, like, there's a lot of, especially as it relates to crypto, there's a lot of AI agent use cases that a lot of people aren't paying attention to, and that tie into things like GameFi and SocialFi and all these different things. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I guess the key takeaway here is that I do see another AI wave coming over the summer, and I think that the focus is going to switch again from infrastructure to utility, and the key focus of the utility will be AI agents, a la Meta and other companies like that. So now that we've zoomed out a bit, guys, we can zoom in a little bit more, and I guess ask the question of, like, how was I able to figure out that there was going to be an AI agent rally, as early as a few weeks ago? Because of course, a lot of these catalysts are not going to happen until over the summer, right? So how did I know that it was going to start happening a little bit sooner? The answer, believe it or not, is Fartcoin. A lot of people misunderstand Fartcoin as being as being just like nothing more than a meme coin, but I see it being as basically like it's technically an AI agent crypto. I believe it wasn't launched, but it was pumped up by this Truth Terminal, this AI agent, right? So it has basically some association with AI agents, and you could make the case that it's kind of like I don't want to say liquidity indicator, but something like that, where it's like when you start to see speculation going into Fartcoin, at least on my end, I was like, this is an indicator that we're probably going to see more capital rotating into AI agents in general, specifically on Solana. And that's basically what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. A lot of AI agents, especially on Solana, are up like 2x or 3x. The one that I've been trading personally, or the one of the many actually, I bought like half a dozen of them. But one of the many that I've been holding trading personally is TARS, aka TAI. I bought it literally somewhere down here at around 3 cents, so I'm up roughly 3x, a little bit more than 3x, which is not too shabby. I think there's way more upside still to come. It's probably going to struggle here in the short term because we have quite a bit of resistance around 10 cents. But before I get, I guess, to the charts too soon, one thing, guys, that I really do need to mention here is, I guess, like the reason why we're going to see a lot of AI agents hype on Solana, because you might be wondering, why is it going to be Solana versus Sui or Base or some other chain? And this is, where you could say a little bit of tinfoil hat stuff comes in, but I think that in Solana's case, they need another use case, another demand driver, something that's going to create demand for Sol that's not a meme coin, but has like a similar aura, similar vibe, if that makes any sense. And of course, those of you will know that who've been keeping up, sorry, with AI agents will know that with the Virtuals protocol late last year, that was basically kind of like another meme coin wave on Base, which was centered around virtuals and these virtual AI agents, which are really interesting, and I'll come back to a little bit later. Basically, what I think is going to happen now is that Solana's management, Solana's, let's say, key stakeholders, I think they want to have another hype cycle that is related to something that actually has more utility and is a little bit, at least, slightly less speculative, let's say, than meme coins. Something has a little bit more utility, and AI agents, I think, fit the bill, and we kind of saw proof of that with Virtual. So I think we could see the same thing happen basically on Solana with all these AI agents popping off over the summer, and that's why I hold actually, I would say I'm like 50-50 AI agents on Solana and AI agents on Base, because it previously, as a result of Virtuals, kind of proved itself to be like the emerging AI agents chain, like on the Ethereum side. And then on like the new like layer one, like next generation, whatever we want to call them, cryptos, Solana seems to be really trying to capture that AI agents stuff. Whereas, some people have asked about Sui. Sui's obviously focused towards GameFi, which will actually, I think, involve some component of AI agents. Again, I'll get to that in a little bit. But in my view, it's clear that Solana's trying to basically create speculation hype around Sol, because of course, to buy these AI agents, you first need to buy Sol. This TAI is trading against Sol, and for the record, I think part of the reason why TARS is doing so well is probably just because it has a similar ticker to BitTensor, TAO. And even if you look in your keyboard, like I'm looking down just to check, if you look in your keyboard, guys, you can see that people who are searching for TAO, they might like accidentally type TAI instead, and then it shows them this, right? I know it sounds really stupid, but this is the type of like, let's say, mid-curve mentality, I guess you could call it, that you have to have, that a lot of people, they're going to be like, oh, like I accidentally typed in TAI. It's also AI. And it's way smaller than Tau, and maybe if it gets as big as Tau, I'm gonna make like a 500x or 5000x return, right, or whatever. This is unfortunately how many people think. But the point being, guys, of course, now that we understand, roughly, let's say, in terms of how to find like the next narrative, that basically you look for a catalyst and you start looking at, like, I guess you could say, early signs that we're starting to see liquidity flow into this ecosystem, something like Fartcoin in the case of AI agents. And then of course that begs the question of like, how do you figure out, I guess, specifically which AI agent crypto to pick, and then also how to trade it in the short term and in the long term. In terms of picking AI agent cryptos, it's honestly a little bit tricky because, again, a lot of them are kind of like meme coins. Most of them don't have that much utility. But one thing that I try and look for when it comes to AI agents is the same thing that I look for, honestly, guys, in most crypto niches, and that's basically, is this a crypto that most retail investors would understand and ape into, right? If it's not that, like, for example, in the case of AI agents, like one that you might have heard about is Dora. It's the Virtuals AI agents. Dora, of course, is like Dora the Explorer themed, and it's like a travel AI agent. Of course, like this is one where it's like, is it guaranteed that it's going to do well? I don't like, obviously not, especially in this case, that I do think that most of the hype will be on Solana. But Dora is one that I kind of got in early, and also, I'm up pretty decently. And again, I do think that the simple reason is kind of similarly to TARS and TAI here, that basically is just something that retail is basically likely to stumble across, something they're likely to ape into and continue buying. Because of course, who do you think is going to be going onto these dexes and buying these AI agents? I don't think it's going to be institutions. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble. But that's the way you have to kind of think about it. Is like, is this something that retail investors would ape into? If it's just like another generic, like I don't know, inferencing AI infrastructure for AI agents, like there's like dozens of those crypto projects, like no one really cares. But if it's something like a little bit more interesting, like a decentralized, I don't know, like a an AI, like for example, AI XBT. And it's funny that I'm using like examples of virtuals here, but it's like AI XBT, like a crypto influencer AI agent. That's pretty cool. Again, it's a little bit too niche, like more like specific to crypto. But I don't know, maybe like an AI agent therapist, right? Something like that. AI agent. I don't know, like we already did travel assistant. What's another one? I don't know, like financial advisor or something, right? Like stuff that people would actually use and understand and ape into that, like, and even if they're not using it, if there's the perception that it could be used, then that's kind of more than enough. So that's what I kind of look for. And again, in terms of TARS, it's, to be honest, it's one that not necessarily that I accidentally came across, but TARS is more like an AI. It is kind of more like an infrastructure where it's like to actually launch AI agents. Like it's kind of like a platform similar to Virtuals, at least to my understanding. And again, I think it just turns out that the ticker and the similarity to Tau, to BitTensor's Tau ticker, is probably part of why it's done exceptionally well compared to other AI agents. So again, it's like a reminder to kind of keep things really simple. So with that in mind, is like, yeah, so just look when you're going through, whether it's again, whether it's GameFi or AI agents or whatever narrative or niche, you always have to ask yourself, guys, is this a crypto project that retail investors could understand and ape into, and is it one that's accessible, right? Because a lot of these, if it's like it has its own chain and it's on some like random offshore exchange, like who's going to buy it? But if it's something on the Solana and it's accessible through the Phantom wallet, which is like the easiest wallet to use, then it's probably going to be fine. Which is yet another reason why I think AI agents on Solana will do well, because it's just going to be so much easier for money to flow onto Solana's chain as a result of the Phantom wallet. And also, you could make that same argument for stuff like for potentially even for Ethereum and for Sui. But without getting too off the topic there, guys. So now let's pull up TAI here and then just like take a look. So when I bought TAI somewhere down here, I don't know, around 30 or around 3 cents, I had a feeling that it would likely top out in the short term somewhere around 10 cents, just because it's a key psychological level, and there's also lots of resistance, like from the basically from people who are kind of accumulating or buying like through that whole zone over the last summer. And of course, another reason, as you guys know, I love using the Bollinger Bands, and I'll slap them on here. And if we actually zoom out, I believe it is to the weekly, I could see that on the weekly chart, there was some resistance somewhere around 14, 15 cents. And you can see that TAI almost got up to that level, but for the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, on like longer term time frames in general, is something I've been watching for a lot of altcoins. So I had a sense, okay, like TAI is probably going to have a hard time getting above that. There's probably going to be lots of resistance. That's what we've seen so far. If it does get above, then that's when things start getting spicy. And this is where I guess I keep my analysis, so you could say, like stupidly simple. And there's kind of like two ways, I guess there's two ways you can go about it. You can look at this chart in terms of trading, and you can look at it in terms of investing. When it comes to TAI specifically, I'm not taking any profits or anything yet, because this is something I'm more like investing in over the next few months rather than actively trading. If I was to trade it, then obviously what I would look for is like next psychological levels, which is probably next one's going to be somewhere here on 50 cents, which of course the previous all-time high or whatever. So to take a profit up there somewhere would be probable, but of course we're likely to see some resistance on the way up. So maybe somewhere around 25 cents, like that halfway point, would potentially be a place to take profits. And then again, somewhere around 50 cents. But of course, a lot of people are going to be doing that, which is why I think even if you're trading, and again, this is just my personal opinion, even if you're trading, the kind of ideal scenario is when a AI agent already surpasses its previous all-time high. When that happens, then that's when the speculation really kicks in. And that's when you can really start thinking like, okay, a lot of people are going to be eyeing that $1 target. When you get the sense that like prices are going above that new all-time high, you can say, okay, like the next target is likely to be somewhere around $1. So we can start front running that a little bit, thinking, okay, like, is it going to go to, let's say, I don't know, 80 cents or like 85 cents? That's stuff that I would start looking for. And you can even, I don't know, like start drawing out trend lines here. So for example, and again, like I know there's lots of debate. It's like, how do you draw trend lines? You should draw it using the tops of the wicks or whatever. But I'm kind of like not about that. I prefer to just draw, like basically just like based on the candle, just because there's lots of volatility, lots of volatility, I guess, basically. And you can see here that just based on this very simple trend line, that you'd likely see a top somewhere, I don't know, like 60, 70 cents, which makes sense. So maybe there'd be like a local top here, then maybe a pullback down, I don't know, to 40 cents, and then another move higher potentially to like new all-time highs. And of course, that begs the question of like, how high could these cryptos realistically go? And of course, that all depends on the market cap, which everyone always forgets about. In TAI's case, we can see here that if TAI was to get to somewhere, I don't know, like 66 cents, then it'd be approaching 500,000 market cap, which is pretty sizable, right? Right now it's below 100 million, so it still has lots of room to run, in my opinion. But once it starts getting into that 500 million, 600 million, the closer it gets to a billion, basically the closer it's likely to get to a top. I don't think there's enough room in the market for all these AI agents to hit market caps in the billions, but most of them should hit market caps, I would think, in the hundreds of millions, probably low hundreds of millions. Which again, like for a lot of these, like the market caps are still tiny. You could still have rallies easily of like 50 to 100x, which is part of why in my personal strategy, I'm just buying and holding. I'm not, not trying to be cheeky and take profits along the way because again, coming back to the start of the video, I believe that we're at the stage of the cycle where we're about to see the parabolic blow off top, and I'm not going to sell early thinking, thank God I got out and we're entering a bear market when things are just going to keep powering higher. I've made that mistake once before, and I'm not going to make it again. And of course, yeah, like it's super interesting, and again, I guess it depends at the end of the day on your personal preference. You just always have to ask yourself, guys, are you trading or are you investing? In my case, when it comes to these AI agents, on a personal level, I'm investing, I'm buying, and I'm holding. I'm not trying to trade these moves. If you are trying to trade these moves, then you have to be hyper aware of basically all the levels where you're likely to see resistance. Especially, you have to think about, how exhausted a lot of retail investors are. Likely to see, for example, here on TAI, lots of resistance around 20 cents, probably lots of resistance around 25 and 30 cents, lots of resistance around 45 cents. But I do think eventually it'll get above all these levels. It's just going to be a choppy grind up potentially because you're going to have a lot of, retail that's basically going to be saying, oh my God, I'm finally break even. I'm selling because I think a bear market is coming, right? And we're seeing that, I would say, even now as I'm shooting this video a little bit in advance. We're seeing a lot of kind of people selling into the pump because they're like thinking, all the people who are accumulating here thinking finally I can get out at break even. I'm scared that we're entering a bear market and so on. But eventually, once those people have sold, then there's room basically to go higher. And once we're above that all-time high, the sky's the limit, basically, objectively for many of these cryptos. And of course, this begs the question of like what would come next then, like after AI agents. And this is where things, I guess, again, get a little bit more speculative. But it's something that I have a pretty high conviction about because if you look into these AI agent cryptos, guys, like especially something like virtuals, it's actually super fascinating because if you look into the history of virtuals, it was actually focused on AI agents related to gaming. And you wouldn't really think about that, right? Like it's a lot of the stuff is focused around entertainment. And if you think about it, guys, it actually makes a lot of sense because most of these AI agents, like in terms of managing money, I don't know, like booking vacations, realistically, these AI agents are not really going to be able to do much. I don't think much people are going to be using them. Many people will be using them. Like who's going to trust an AI agent with hundreds or thousands of dollars? I don't think very many people, maybe just like absolute degens. But when it comes to stuff, for example, like one that I saw, I think by Virtuals and some other crypto projects is AI agent NPCs, okay, like in gaming. That is actually a massive, massive, massive use case. And again, this ties in to what Meta is doing here. Do you think Meta is going to be making AI agents like for hedge fund managers and stuff? No, they're going to be making AI agent, I don't know, like customer service, obviously is a very basic one, but maybe AI agent like a fake, kind of like partners, or how would you say, companions, right? Like that you have kind of like a companion in like in like Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever that you can like basically chat with this like personalized AI agent, right? That will like help you. It's like, oh, like I'm feeling lonely today or whatever. So kind of fitting into the let's say how would you say like a therapist kind of like AI agent stuff, right? These personalized AI agents, or for example, I mean, I guess in Meta's case, I guess they do have like their also their Oculus Rift or whatever it is. I guess they bought Oculus. Sorry about I'm like kind of fumbling here trying to remember the exact terms, but of course you guys know like Metaverse has like Meta has like their Metaverse thing, which is why they're called Meta now. So putting AI agents into that, for example, that's something I could see them doing, right? So basically, you have to stop thinking about AI agents specifically in the context of crypto, which is like heavily financialized, and you have to start thinking about it more of like where would this stuff actually be useful, like right now, right? Like AI agents as like managing money and stuff. I'm sure that's going to happen in the future, but like right now, what are things that people would actually use AI agents for? AI agent NPCs in GameFi is like the lowest hanging fruit. AI agent, I don't know, like influencers and like just entertainment, the streamers, right, stuff like that. That's where a lot of it is going to happen. And again, like what niches are that? SocialFi, GameFi, SocialFi and GameFi in turn, they have lots of connections to NFTs. So potentially this has like a really nice kind of progression to it where potentially during or after, and it's a question of like, is it going to happen at the same time or slightly after? No one really knows. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if during or after this AI agent pump, we start to see capital rotating basically into the GameFi niche. And then, of course, the question then is like, okay, like which GameFi cryptos should you start looking at? And again, like I said, guys, the cryptos with the most potential, always you have to look at like what has the basically not like the super smallest market cap, but a small market cap relative to the quality of the project. A really good example I would use in this case, and full disclosure, these are both cryptos that I hold personally, but one of the ones that I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, which, that happens very often when we're kind of in these very bearish, or we're coming out of a bearish phase, let's say, is Guns, Gunzilla Games, the Gun token, which we actually reviewed on the Coin Bureau Club. As you guys can see, like this crypto's, it's basically brand new. It hasn't really been doing anything. It's just been chopping, consolidating here. If we look at the chart, we can see a little bit clearer here on the, I think it's on the Trader Joe on Avalanche. You can see that basically it's just been consolidating. I actually bought Guns somewhere down here, somewhere around 5 cents. So I'm up also, I don't know, whatever it is, 20 or 30%. Not too shabby. But again, I do think that there's more potential because, again, if you actually research into these crypto projects, which is what we do in the Coin Bureau Club, if you research into these crypto projects, you'll find that specifically with Guns, they raised an obscene amount of money. Like I think they raised more than 100 million. Like they've raised a lot of money, and like look at the size of this token. It's like nothing, right? And looking even at the tokenomics, they have a very clever design that's like meant to prevent kind of like too much selling pressure from people who are getting the token. And of course, this is all stuff that you kind of have to look into. It has lots of exchange listings, which means that it's super accessible, even though it's on Avalanche, right? Always remember that accessibility, how easy it is for people to buy. So this is one that I'm personally pretty bullish on. Small market cap, it could easily 10x, potentially 100x from here, right? Not saying that it will, but again, like, we're talking about two different things here: short-term trading versus, I guess, like longer-term investing over the next few months. This is another crypto that I'm just buying and holding. I'm not looking to trade it. I'm not looking for specific levels to sell or take profit. I'm just going to kind of wait until we have like a maximum hype, around that niche or narrative, and then say, okay, where is it at now? And is now the time to start taking profits? Until I start to see, I guess you could say, that social confirmation, I'm not going to be getting too excited. And who knows, maybe next week, because I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments, is next week I'll do a video about how to take profits, or my personal strategy in terms of taking profits, not in terms of trading, but in terms of, I guess you could say, like longer term swing trading or investing or whatever you want to call it. So anyways, guys, another crypto project that I've had on my radar, and I don't want to say that I don't want to come across as like shilling this project, but it's one that I do think needs a shout out for sure, because it's not on many people's radar. It's not very accessible, which kind of makes me a little bit questionable in terms of or makes me question how big it could potentially get. But I'm sure that the accessibility will improve here, and that's Hytopia, aka Topia, previously NFT Worlds. It's basically decentralized Minecraft. So I guess this kind of ties into what we were saying with AI agents, but a little bit differently. So of course, the question of like, how do I find the right, let's say, GameFi crypto that's objectively, like, it's very hard to do. I would say that, like, similarly to AI agents, similar to GameFi, similarly to meme coins for that matter, finding the exact right one, like that moonshot, is going to be very tricky, because it's like you're kind of like basically shooting you're basically shooting blind, I guess is the best term I can use, where you really don't know like which of these games, which of these AI agents is going to be the most popular. There's no way of knowing, which is why I try and personally stick to like investing more on the protocol level, let's say. Like for example, I don't know, like Sui, for example, is obviously a GameFi crypto. I hold a lot of Sui, and in terms of GameFi allocation, for many people, and even for me personally, like that's the bulk of my allocation, and that's fine, because there you go, there's my GameFi exposure, and I don't have to stress about like, did I pick the right game? Is that other game going to get bigger? Because like you never know, right, guys? Like if you guys remember, there was this Flappy Bird game, right, that got super popular because for example, you'll have all these, all this investment, hundreds of millions of dollars into Gunzilla games, and then some other random game will just come out of the blue, and everyone will be playing that, and no one will be playing Gunzilla, right? And then you'll be like, well, what the hell? But this is like a normal thing, right? Like in gaming and in crypto in general, which is why it's kind of like futile to try and find these individual projects. And I really feel I need to stress this in the case of something like, both in terms of Gunzilla, but especially in the case of Hytopia, because it is a decentralized Minecraft. It does seem to have a lot of potential, but that doesn't guarantee that people are going to find it and play it, right? And it's one that, again, it's one that I'm personally very bullish on. I think it's a super quality crypto project. The chart looks absolutely beautiful. I know like most people, when they look at this chart, they just get depressed, but for me, this is perfect. No one's even noticed it yet, and it literally reminds me, like look at the parallels here between, for example, TARS or TAI and Topia. Like it's almost the same thing. It's like you had that huge like rally late late last year. I think in Topia's case, it was early last year. Yeah. So you basically had that huge rally, huge grind down, everyone just bleeding out, bleeding out. Same thing here, bleeding out, bleeding out. And what do you think comes after that, guys? First sign of recovery, and then you get like that, basically like parabolic move potentially after that. And that's where, whether it's, well, guns, I guess, is a little bit different because it launched recently. But if you look at most GameFi crypto charts, guys, look almost exactly like this. This is not specific to Topia, so don't go aping in thinking that I'm saying that you should buy it and whatever, that is better than other AI agents, or sorry, better than other GameFi cryptos. No, as I just specified, guys, no one knows which GameFi game is going to be the biggest. That's a fact. But the fact also is that most GameFi cryptos have a chart that looks like this. So similarly to AI agents, if you buy something else, maybe it'll go up more, maybe it'll go up less, but chances are, if it's part of that niche, it's going to go up, just like how every single AI agent also had the same chart here, where they all pumped late last year, they all grinded lower, and now they're all starting to recover. Every single one has a chart that looks like this. TAI has pumped a little bit more compared to other AI agents. Again, could that be because it has a similarity of the ticker to TAI? Could it be because it's infrastructure? Who knows? But again, like when it comes to investing, like rather than trading, and again, I mean, even in terms of trading, like everything, when the GameFi niche starts taking off, basically every single GameFi crypto is going to pump, right? And maybe it won't happen right away. Maybe some will lag by a day or two. Some will rally a little bit sooner. Others will rally a little bit later. But the point is, guys, that you will like basically everything, once a niche rallies, everything in that niche rallies. Okay, so don't get too stressed out thinking like, did I pick the right one, did I pick the wrong one? If you get lucky and you pick the right one, then that's the one that goes up 100x or 1000x, great. But to get a 5x 10x return when prices are so beaten down, on any AI agent crypto or any GameFi crypto for that matter, which again looks like it's going to be following AI agents in the next couple of weeks here, potentially, to buy anywhere around these levels, like you're probably going to be fine, right? You're basically buying the lows. Like literally you're buying the lows, like if you're buying somewhere around that level. And does that mean, again, like, could it be just like 50% gain, 2x or 3x or whatever? Who cares? Like, if you're trading, or even if you're investing, like that's a pretty decent gain and not too shabby. And again, in the case of something like Topia, this is where things get really tricky. And again, I do need to flag this, and it's something you guys always have to remember in terms of accessibility. Topia is on Ethereum. Ethereum is expensive. Not many people use Ethereum main chain like for swapping, because it costs whatever it is, like a couple dollars a swap. I mean, I guess now it's probably like in the cent range. But once Ethereum starts rallying, the fees are going to spike. Topia needs to list on more exchanges, whereas like something like again, like AI agents on Solana are probably going to have a much easier time, or even AI agents on Base, because through the Coinbase wallet or whatever else, and Base is a very cheap chain. So you always have to think about that, is like, what is the most not only what do retail investors understand and can ape into, but is it possible for them to do it, and how easy it is for them to move money in and out of that crypto, because that's going to determine a lot of the potential there. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of rambling now at this point a little bit, but it is really interesting, guys. Like, I do think this is something you need to keep your eyes out on, is like, always think about what is the next big narrative. I do think that AI agents are still getting started. I think that GameFi is going to be next. And after that, potentially, maybe it'll be NFTs or something else. And if you guys are interested and you want to, keep on top of these trends and like whatever cryptos and whatever up and coming cryptos, and look at like reviews, altcoin reviews, like we actually reviewed Topia on the Coin Bureau Club, then of course become a member of the Coin Bureau Club. That's where we do weekly deep dives into small cap altcoins. We let people vote on those altcoins, like which ones that we cover. We have a research feed where I'm sharing like insights about like what's the next big narrative going to be. We have a portfolio page where you can see what cryptos we hold. We have an exclusive deals page where you can find huge, like even bigger discounts on like crypto analytics platforms and stuff like that. And we do have a members Discord where you can ask us questions and stuff like that. So if you did enjoy today's video, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and if you want more analysis like this, then become a member of the Coin Bureau Club using the link down in the description. Until next time, see ya.